Okay, can we call to order?
But thank you for that compliment about my memory, okay?
Want to do roll call?
Okay, Albertine Allen. Mrs. Carroll.
Here.
Marty Corley. Bonnie Dimke.
Here.
Diana Gore. Melody Haynes.
Here.
Dee Lane.
Here.
Abigail May.
Here.
Nancy Moldenauer.
Here.
Mary Ellen Quinn.
Here.
Tyra Robinson Walker.
Here.
I have a quorum.
Thank you. Did everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes that were sent out this afternoon? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We can start with the financial report if Marty sent one over to Carl.
No, he did not.
No. Carl, would you follow up with Marty and see if he's unable to be here, if he would be able to send you a financial report ahead of time so that we could be able to work off of it in the meetings?
Okay.
Thank you. Executive Director's report.
Good afternoon, everybody. As we're all aware, this was a rather contentious time, most recently here during our upcoming elections. There's got to be some healing going on around here, and it has gotten to the point that I actually shared something with Pastor Carroll here before I came into the meeting here. In fact, I was going to actually play it here for the public, but it is very insulting and threatening, and I think I may have to look at some other avenues. But the nature of it is very hateful. And in fact, in light of one of my co-workers having their spouse involved in an altercation, things that have to be taken seriously. With that being said, when we take complaints from people who say they've been discriminated against, or there are signs that they find to be done in the spirit of hate, sometimes we kind of gloss over it, so to speak. We say, hey, it's on you to prove it. But in this case, the shoe's on the other foot. And I feel really just disenchanted at the thought that our forefathers and ancestors fought for our right to vote. And here we are in 2019, and we still have issues. So much that hate is being spewed. So, to be specific, I received a call in my office this afternoon that I found to be very disturbing, and I will pursue some ends. With that being said, I just want to put that out there, and so that while we will have some cases that will come before you for your decision, give it all the sincerity that it deserves. Let's not dismiss the concerns that people have, but at least let's look at them and recognize it. While things may not be to the extent that it's a provable issue, but it may be worth listening and understanding that some things still do occur. That being said, I want to start off just saying and give a couple of announcements that the Indiana Latino Expo will be holding their annual awards gala on December 6th in Annapolis. If anybody is interested, I have the information. Also, there will be a 29th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday celebration with events in Indianapolis as well, commencing on January 15th. So these items have come to the office. And some people have inquired about our Humanitarian of the Year award winners in the past, so I did as best I could to come up with a list of names.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good to have.
I tried to research and find the two missing. What was noticed that I had the plaques, make sure all the plaques are updated, and for the years 2011 and 12, there's actually a line engraved through those numbers, and 13 and 14 are actually in there. So that's.
We'll get to the bottom of that,
Okay.
I promise.
Then another thing, someone had.
Becky Williams. I don't see her.
Who?
Becky Williams?
Becky? No.
Isn't she giving it?
That was prior to me. And I came in 2006 or 7.
She never got it. She was on the commission, but
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. And then other things, so we do have some new members and people have been inquiring about our Humanitarian of the Year, and so I brought out copies for our review of possible. These are the dates from last year on this, as far as deadline. So, but if anybody wants to review them and make any suggestions, take it, look at it, and we can bring that to the table. But I know some people may not have seen our actual nomination forms. So, that's
Carl, could those be sent to us as an attachment?
sure.
Please. Yeah. Thank you.
So, so right now, when you see it, it does have a 2020 date on it, and I just used last year's date of April 11th, 20th. So that's
Is that by
nothing.
when it's supposed to be submitted by a certain date?
That would be, but we haven't determined that.
Right, okay.
right, all that will come out
Normally it's
later.
April, okay.
Okay, and then finally, in the recap of our EEO, we talked about that a couple meetings ago. However, we didn't have quorums. For the year 2019, I have filed 18 discrimination complaints. Out of those 18, one was sent to the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, and the others were all sent to EEOC for them. So our charge was to investigate the 9 remaining. Well, actually, the 9 remaining, but of the 9, 2 are actually new. So that information is incomplete, but we do have lists. There are packets containing the complaints there, and at some point, committee members have to step up and review the cases before we bring them to the main body.
Carl, in September and then again in October, you had referenced 2 specific cases. And in September, we did not have a quorum. There were 4 of us here, and 3 of us had said we would take one of those cases. And you and Marty had said that you would reach out to the commissioners who were not at that meeting and have them take on the other case. And that for those of us who were here, the 3 of us who were able to take on the first case, Mary Ellen, Marty, and myself, that you would send that case to us and that we would be able to go from there. And then we revisited it again in October. And then I had sent an email this week asking for that to be sent over. But I think it's important that when we get the cases, we rapidly, within that month, that before the next meeting occurs, we would have been able to be assigned the case at the meeting, get it sent out, be able to meet as a committee, be able to put our stamp on it before the next meeting comes around, so that we don't make anybody wait or fall behind in anything. So you said that there were how many cases here?
Those are 9. Those are 9 cases there.
9 cases, and the 2 that we talked about in September, October were the only
They
ones
are
that we
included.
had previously.
They were not complete. They had all the
Okay.
information had not come in.
So since we have a quorum today, I think that our top priority should be to take responsibility for these as committee members and be intentional to have them done before the December meeting, which I know is not ideal to have that many in 1 month, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we are swiftly taking care of them. So we could go through committee reports and everything, and then at new business, go through assigning the committees. Would that be okay with everybody? I think that we would all feel like we had done what we're responsible for doing if we could enter the holidays having, ending the year having wrapped up any that we got in this year.
Anything that comes in after this will go toward next year.
Okay. Thank you for providing them here.
That will be all that I have to report on.
Okay, thank you. Staff attorney report?
I have no report unless anyone has any questions.
We have some new commissioners, and as we'll be taking on these cases and tackling them this month, I think ideally we would have a mixed group on each review committee. Somebody who has done many, somebody who has done a couple or a few, 1 year's worth, let's say, and somebody who is new to the process. Do you think that's the best way to move forward?
Oh, absolutely. At least one person who has done it before.
Right. And then could we set a system for being able to reach out to you with any questions that come up with having so many new people? Is there...
Sure, you could just email me at any time for anything. We could also talk about, and we've done it before, talk about a retreat for some type of training. We had some good training about a year and a half ago from a judge from Lake County, and it was kind of geared towards probable cause and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do something at some point here, maybe after the holidays.
I think that would be great. I think that if we could handle these cases this month with, just having access to you and taking leadership from the people who have done this process a number of times before, and then in the new year, since we do have a lot of new commissioners, and I think that really even for people who have been around for a while or people who have been around for just a short amount of time, that we should really annually be reviewing those most important tenets of what we're tasked to do. I think that's a great idea. I know Mary Ellen has offered to host something at her home.
Right.
That maybe, we don't have the luxury of having a speaker every time, and we're not going to use our funds that way, but I'm sure that Larry would put together a show for...
I don't know if it'd be anywhere near as good. We're not going to have Jeopardy or Fortune, whatever we had.
I'm sure the information will be just as valid. Yeah.
I would say, though, that if I could just interrupt her.
No, I would. Yeah. It's your report.
I cannot decide any issues, so you're free to contact me, but I cannot decide anything or tell you what to do.
For sure.
You have to make the decision on your own. And the best basis for doing that is to read our main ordinance, which is 3283, which I know all the new people got last month also. That one tells you what is discrimination and what we can and cannot do.
And it's incredibly important when you're doing this to make sure that you are not being subjective in that judgment, but that you are holding your interpretation accountable to the ordinance, and what is discrimination and what is not, and checking yourself to make sure that you don't have any bias that is influencing your reading of the case. That's really important too.
We have several ordinances, but this is the one that deals with these complaints. It would have to fall within this ordinance to determine whether or not we can do anything. And if you don't have one, Carl can get it to you, or it's online. You can just go online, and it will be the Michigan City website. It will have the ordinance there. It tells you what we can give in the way of damages. It is a lot of legal stuff, so it's not the easiest stuff to do in the world. And in the past, we have gone over it paragraph for paragraph, and maybe at some point we would need to do that again, just to go over this with so many new commissioners. We did it over a period of probably a year or something, covering a little section every monthly meeting. If you guys want to,
but you are available if people are.
But I'm
reading
certainly
through it and feeling...
available available if you have any questions as to what does this legal clause mean. And a lot of it, we don't get that many complaints. The employment comes up a lot, so the employment sections have to be read. The penalty sections have to be read. I would read the entire thing, because this is the most important thing for doing the probable cause. Our main goal, this was our main ordinance, the original ordinance that goes back many, many years, and this is the one that gives us our basis to try to correct these problems that occur in the community. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot of things in the past. We've done a lot of things with hiring and affirmative action and a lot of other fundraising, but this was our initial and our main purpose was this ordinance. So it's not all that long, so it's not that bad. But again, Ordinance 3283, the Human Rights Ordinance, that's the best thing you can go on. And if you feel free to call me at any time. I'll just tell you if you ask me something that I can't answer. I can't tell you whether to find probable cause or not to find probable cause. But I can try to. If you don't understand what a particular paragraph is or what something says, I'm more than happy to help. So just contact me.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Social status, Pastor Carroll?
Nothing more than just, as I said last month, I've been going out into the community and being a commissioner, human rights. But I think the next thing I probably would have to say I would say it in public comment.
Thank you.
Under public comment.
Okay, very good. Before we go into committee reports, we could circle back to finance report since Marty is here.
Yeah, so I'll pass around the treasury report. There really was not too much change from September. Sorry I missed the October meeting. I thought it was the next Tuesday, and it was that Tuesday. So, but not too much change. So the ending balance is the same as like September, $6,469.75. Like I said, we haven't spent no money since looks like July 2nd is the last time we spent money. So.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any questions about the finance report? Okay. Committee reports.
You need to approve those.
Pardon?
You need to approve the financial.
Oh, thank you. Motion to approve the finance report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Executive committee. We don't have a report for executive committee at this time. Special events committee. Mary Ellen?
I don't have a report concerning the actual humanitarian meal, lunch and dinner. I will call a meeting, any of those, and especially the new commissioners that are interested in working on this. Your ideas are certainly welcome, and we will do that soon.
Okay.
I promise.
And could you review?
With the lack of quorum and people missing meetings, me included, that I'm sorry that it hasn't happened yet, but I promise you that it will.
Sure.
Okay.
And the month that the humanitarian of the year luncheon.
Well, we haven't
happens?
chosen a date yet, but it's usually May. Sometime in May. We have to see when Mother's Day is.
Sure.
It's a lot, but we will.
May.
We will definitely. We have plenty of time in which to do that.
And that means that the deadline, although the deadline hasn't been set for submissions for Humanitarian of the Year and Unsung Hero, that would be in April.
Yes.
And does the nomination form, I understand that there might be some revisions, but once those are made, does the nomination form live on the Michigan City website so people can access that?
Yes.
So anyone can go to the Michigan City website at any time and access that form and make a nomination. Ideally, we would have a large number of nominations for both Humanitarian of the Year and Unsung Hero Award, and that everyone in the community would know that they have the opportunity to nominate people who are doing their good work here. So as we get into the months leading up to April, we should be aggressive in using the city's social media and the newspapers and the radio to get the word out that people can make these nominations, because what we don't want to happen is the nominations coming from one small pool of people or the same pool of people all the time.
And let me just interject. Historically, it's in the news dispatch, and it has been for every year that I've been on the commission. Now, last year, I don't believe it was or was it?
It was, we even took out an ad.
Okay, well, you're right. I'm thinking, what I'm saying is that I would like to see it run in the paper more than just once.
Absolutely.
So I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Because not everyone are going to be on social media or going to. So I totally agree with you.
Great.
Thank you. Could I just add one more thing on special events?
Yeah, absolutely.
This isn't about the human rights, but today was the beginning of client intake at the Salvation Army for members of our community that might need assistance during the Christmas months. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying this to all of my fellow commissioners, as well as to someone that might be watching this program. I'm going to be giving 4 more dates. If you just might want to jot this down in case you know someone in need. The next client intake will be Wednesday, the 13th of November, 9 to 12 and 1 to 3. And then the following Wednesday, 20th, oh no, that's not the following. We skip a week for Thanksgiving. Wednesday, November the 20th, 9 to 12 and 4 to 6. And then finally Wednesday, December the 4th, 9 to 12 and again 4 to 6. So you can also call the Salvation Army for more information at 874-6885.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scholarship Committee?
No report, but we will have one close to the beginning of the year when we get closer to. Because scholarships we usually don't do it after. Well, at the beginning of the year we start having some meetings.
Okay, so the scholarship timeline runs similarly to Humanitarian of the Year.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep. Fundraising Committee?
We will have no. So we actually had a meeting in July, but it's been a while since, and we haven't. I can't find my notes, but we will have another meeting. So far it's me and Melanie. Mm-hmm. If anybody else want to get involved, feel free. I will have give Carl a date, and we will have it out there notes because so we meet the open door laws and so forth. And,
sure.
And anybody who wants to come could. But I'm trying to get something going here maybe a week before Thanksgiving. That week before, so next week, talk to Melanie. We'll talk about some dates that's good for us, and we'll get a notice out, and then anybody can attend. We'll plan some things. We're probably gonna plan some either try to start planning for some stuff at the beginning of the year. I mean, because the holidays is kind of hard now, and everybody else.
Sure.
Figure we get a couple of good things going at the beginning of the year.
Okay, that
we'll
sounds
be
great.
on our goal to at least bring in $1,000 from the fundraising committee.
I have no doubt, and I think that's smart to not base your strongest fundraising efforts at the holiday time. That's never a good idea. Education Committee, I had sent out a doodle poll, and I had Marty was available for one of those sessions, and then Mrs. Lang was available for a few, but I didn't have anybody else able to respond to that. And I understand that that it's hard to make outside meetings, but I think that if we're going to have an education committee meeting, what we had talked about is to start a new effort in addition to our grant option in the spring, that I just want to have as many voices as possible in the room. So I understand that time frame did not work, and that holidays are tough. So I'm going to try the doodle poll again, and I will be more persistent in reminding everybody to take the time to fill it out. I think that with the talent on the commission being strongly, for so many of you, centered in an educational background, that we could come up with something for fall or summer that is just as impactful as our inclusion grant, which we offer in the spring. So that's my education.
May I add something to it?
Yeah.
I spoke with a business officer today. In the past, Sharon Wright has always bought the gift cards that were given away for the scholarship. She bought them in advance, and then the commission made a motion and would reimburse them.
The scholarship, not the grant.
The scholarships, for the winners of the Martin Luther King essay.
Just to clarify.
Black History Month.
Yeah.
Black History Month. And so what she told me today was that if the commission were to name someone today and on record, we could have a check made out to them in advance. They could purchase the gift cards.
Do we want to wait till we get to Martin Luther King report and do that as part of that?
Black History Month.
Which is part of it's in education. It's
in January.
It's part of education.
All right.
But so I thought that's something that while we had a quorum for sure, you might want to throw that out there.
Sure. Marty, can you speak to what those amounts were?
I knew you was gonna do that.
About 17,
Yeah, I
17,
can.
25.
It's actually, I think it comes out to be almost 1,500. Because we have first, second, and third place for K through 12. And the higher you get, here, if you give me 1 second, if you
Sure.
want to go to something else and not come back.
Yeah, we can come back to it.
This year it came really like
So while he looks into the details of that expense, we could move on to governance.
Oh, there's nothing in governance.
Okay. And Martin Luther King Committee?
Martin Luther King Committee has been delayed in reference to finalizing a few things because there's been a lot of change of hands over at P&W, and so we have new hands. And so in the new hands, things have been delayed. So
Okay. Do you need additional support from the commission?
no.
Do you think that,
The only thing is that in January, we're not probably gonna know who's all in place until probably next month. Hopefully by the end of this month, but things moving slow right now.
all right. Well, I'm sure that if anybody's able to drive it home, it's you. So I'm sure it'll be
They're not
wonderful. It
liking
always
me
is.
right now. They're not liking me.
And if you start to feel uncomfortable with the timeline and you think that we need to, move forward independently or you need more support from the commission, just, feel free to reach out. Don't feel like you have to wait for the next meeting to roll around.
Yeah, I probably would definitely reach out, especially if things aren't finalized at our next meeting,
Okay.
because I know it's a line budget item for that,
Mm-hmm.
but normally by now we've already known who's who and
Sure.
who's doing what, but
Okay.
I don't.
Well, yeah, it's an important offering in the community. You do a great job. People really look forward to it. So I'm sure that everybody here would do whatever you needed to help.
I appreciate it.
I'm ready now. So last year we only spent I just had it. Carl just showed it to me. Oh, we spent $11.75 on it. It's budgeted for that was something wrong.
15.
It was 15. Well, I have in my prizes. I have a total for $11.25. We spent $11.75 for some reason. Of gift cards. Maybe my count is off here.
I believe there, I don't want to speak out of turn, but wasn't there a tie?
Yes, that's
There
what
was
it
a
was.
tie and we
So it's $11.25 is what we budget if it's first, second, and third place in all from K through 12. Because in the first, second, and third from K through 6, it starts off with $75 in each for the first place. Second is $50, and third is $25. And then when you go 7 through 12, it becomes $100, $75, and $50. So it comes out to be a total of $11.25, and we did have a tie, so that's why we paid a little bit more. But it's $11.25 is what we have. What will be the total for the amount of gift cards we would need.
Do we
for all
want
places.
to, since we've ran into the $11.75 issue last year, do we want to approve $11.75 just in case of a tie again?
Or
And if we,
Just to
yeah, or $1,200, then if we don't have a tie, great. But if we do, we're not, we've done what we're supposed to do.
Okay, I make a motion, we appropriate $1,200 for the gift cards for the Martin Luther
Black History Month.
Black History Month gift cards for the winners.
Wonderful. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Great. Thank you.
Who wants to be in charge of it? Who wants to be the designee?
I mean, I'm gonna end up. That's my committee anyway. So.
Okay.
So just to be clear, Marty has been the head of the Black History Month project as the head of the scholarship committee, and he agrees to continue that. Great.
So the checks will be made out to Marty Corley in advance to purchase the gift cards.
And he'll return his receipts, and then it'll be on the financial report.
Notarized and everything.
As long as he gets them across the street.
Perfect. Okay. P-Flag?
P-Flag meeting is coming up on December 5th, which is Thursday at 6:30 p.m. I did make the announcement last time that we're combining the November and December meetings because of the holidays, being Thanksgiving and Christmas. Taking place at the Art Space Artist Lofts at 717 Franklin Street in Michigan City. And as usual, all community members are welcome, members of the LGBTQ community and allies. Also, I wanted to make an announcement that there's going to be a special presentation at the Sinai Temple, and this is going to be entitled Jewish History in Indiana, and Trent D. Pendley will be the presenter. He's the author of a book that's entitled Jewish History of Indiana Dunes Country, and he's also the past president of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society. And that's going to be on Sunday, November 17th at 11 a.m. All members of the community and surrounding area are invited to come and attend that. And I think it's very appropriate he's doing it at this point in time. Unfortunately, I have a hate crime that I want to report that happened at the Indiana Dunes State Park. I realize this is not Michigan City, but it's close enough to our community that it did affect many members that live in our community. There was graffiti that was spray painted on the Indiana Dunes State Pavilion. There were KKK signs and also swastikas that were there. So far, action that's been taken as it was reported as a hate crime to the FBI. The Regional Anti-Defamation League in Chicago was contacted about this, and it's being handled by the Indiana Dunes State Park law enforcement. Trent was involved with me in making this public and also getting articles in the News Dispatch and the Northwest Indiana Times so that people were informed about this, and also to put pressure on the people in power to take action on it and do something about it. It happened sometime the newspaper reports came out on October 24th. And that week it happened sometime before 7 a.m. on Thursday and after 4 p.m. that prior Wednesday. So it was a very short period of time that happened. But I think it's important for all of us to be aware of this. It makes especially our Jewish community feel insecure and very vulnerable. Oftentimes this is a marking of, one of the hate groups that they're possibly moving into an area, or that oftentimes violent acts will follow things like this, especially when they're doing it on very public institutional buildings. Mm-hmm. So that's what I have as far as, my report.
Nancy, I would say that it did get, if there's anything good about this, it did get good publicity. I believe I saw it in Indianapolis Star also. It was widely distributed, and I think that's step number one, that people are interested in it and concerned that this is something that we don't want to have happen. And I live like 2 miles from there, and they cleaned it up pretty fast. So the state took action. Unfortunately, we don't have a really strong hate crime legislation in the state, but I think that thanks to your efforts and others, that at least this has been brought to people's attention, that we can't have this happening. We certainly can't have it happening at the state park. The one thing in the state that's the main tourist attraction and the main thing that's positive about this area, and it's just it was just horrible. It was really bad. But thank you very much.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, we do have a bias crime now that does cover all groups except for the elderly, women, and trans individuals. But in that report is not really clear guidelines as far as reporting. And it seems to fall through the cracks after it gets to one of the law enforcement agencies, and it's just not making it to the FBI and other places that it needs to go. So Trent Penley was actually the one that contacted the Anti-Defamation League and then followed up the next day by contacting the FBI.
Thank you, Nancy. Old business. We don't have any old business listed. Unless anybody wants to bring something up, we can move on to new business, and that's where we could place the case assignments. I don't think we need to place the 2 cases that we talked about earlier under old business because we weren't assigned numbers, so really it's all new business. Carl, last time we had a large, or more than a couple of cases at a time, there ended up being some confusion about which commissioners were assigned to which cases and the correlating case number. So when we assign these today, could you announce a case number, and then we can have 3 people take responsibility for it, and we can say, 1 senior commissioner, 1 junior commissioner, and 1 brand new commissioner. So we can make sure that we get that
Baby steps.
differentiation of knowledge on each case. Does that work for everybody, and does that work for you?
Sure.
Okay. What's happening?
Asking for I just want to remind people again, I know we've gone over this, but what we're going to do is once we have our committees, you guys will need to meet. So we will set whoever the chair is will contact the members, find out when it's a good time for everyone to meet. Then you'll contact Carl. You'll tell Carl this is when we want to meet. The open door notices will go out. This is okay to have it as a closed committee meeting, which means it's not open to the public. But that's the procedure. We in the past, we've just kind of done it by phone, and we're a little bit more loose about it. But we changed this last year. So you can use email to try to set up an appointment or a committee meeting, but don't use the email to discuss the case or resolve the case. That also applies to if you're contacting me. If you're contacting me about a question, you could say, Larry, I got a question with ordinance section whatever. Please give me a call, and then I'll call you back. But we don't use email to discuss the case. We don't use email to discuss particulars. We don't use email to discuss anyone's name.
Okay.
But we'll go ahead and we'll have a probable cause committee meeting. And I know we just did this, but again, for the new people, then once the probable cause committee has ruled, we'll come back at the next meeting, and they will make a report to the full commission. The full commission will then vote on whether to accept. We'll not go into details about what the probable cause committee did, but we'll vote to accept or not accept for some reason what the probable cause committee did. So then we could proceed with the case. And we did this a couple months ago when we had that last group of 6 cases. If you remember, there was an issue with one of them, and the city attorney got involved. And so I just wanted to make sure that that's the procedure, and so that's what we're going to do. Okay.
Wonderful.
And we also now have a form to fill out what the decision of the committee is.
Yes. So is that form included with each case in there? Fantastic. So
We're only filling out 1 form, right? For the
Yes.
one form for the whole committee. And when you've set your time for to meet, that notification of time and place should be sent to Carl.
Because the notices do have to go out, and open door notices,
Perfect.
it's closed to the public, but the notices still have to go out.
Okay.
So either here or, since it's closed, it could be somebody's house. It doesn't have to be open to the public, but whatever's convenient. But this is, so not either the small room or the big room here, if it's open.
Absolutely.
It's a nice place to do it. It has to be a majority decision. You don't need to write a book on the decision, but you do need to give a little bit of detail as to why you did what you did, so that there's some basis for the attorneys that look at this. And somebody's going to always be unhappy, and somebody's going to look at it and they'll be able to say, okay, this is what, at least minimally what they decided to do. Hopefully, with the ordinance, that this falls within this section of the ordinance, or this doesn't fall within that section of the ordinance, or whatever.
Yes.
But hopefully that'll be the chair can guide, whoever the chair of the committee, the more experienced member, can guide you through it and tell you what to do. So don't be scared off about this, but it's one of our main functions. So it's very important.
So, and please feel free to interject in this process to make sure that it's simple. I'm writing it down too, just because I think that there might be a system for signing up for these that could be most smooth. And then you and I can touch base at the end and make sure that I didn't miss anything. Is that okay? So Carl, could we start by going through all the case numbers before we start signing up for them for record's sake?
Okay.
So case number 1 is, what is the case number?
Number 1, 2019-01. Here's a list of them right here. So you say that.
Great. This will be
Give it
next.
to me.
Okay.
The next one.
Any mental cases?
So it's just 2019-01
Yep.
all the way through
Yep.
2019-09.
Mhm.
Great. Well, that is
Well, these are different. The ones that have MHRC are the ones here. So there are 3 copies of reports in each envelope for the 3 commissioners. So whoever's the lead can pass them to.
I'm sorry. Could you?
EEOC, like this one's an EEOC case.
Oh, so okay. So we're doing 2019-01,
And we're
2019-02.
No.
And then-
Yeah, okay.
and then
anything with
2019-04.
MHRC, 4,
Okay.
5. What's that? 8. And 14 is pending, so we won't be doing that today. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, and 15.
I'm sorry. I have my other wrong. I'm looking at yours. Okay, not 14, but 15, 17, and 18.
Yeah, we'll address
17.
17, 8. We'll address. I'll address 14, 17, 18 after we get these first 6 out.
Okay. So in review, 01, 02, 04, 08, and 15.
05.
05 also.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then just a moment, please. Okay, so not actually as many as I thought. The people who are here, who are what we would call senior commissioners, people who have done, well, I don't mean that,
Sure.
most experienced.
I'm
Most
okay.
experienced is
I'm
what I'm
embracing
referencing.
50. Thank you.
Tenured.
Tenured, yeah. You know what I mean.
Tenured,
The people
that's
who
the
would
I'm okay with that.
the people who would essentially be the leaders on each committee that would be able to field questions first before going to Larry and be able to provide guidance on how to make sure that you are referencing the ordinance and, making sure that you're doing this in a process that does not allow for bias, which is the most important thing. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that would be Mary Ellen, Tyra, Marty, and Nancy. Not Nancy. Okay. By her own determination, not my determination.
No,
yeah.
my determination. Right.
So Mary Ellen, Tyra, and Marty. So with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
2
6.
each.
So you'd have 2 each. Okay. Are you each willing to take 2?
Yes.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. And Tyra, for you as well.
I'm sorry, I wasn't talking.
Are you
Listening,
able-
I was talking.
Are you willing to take on? Are you willing to take on 2?
That would be to take 2 because I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks.
You said you are or are
I'm
not?
not able to take 2 because I'm going to be out of state for 2 weeks.
Okay. So how are you able to take one?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll take 3.
Okay. So Marty, you're going to get 2019-01, 2019-02, and 2019-04.
Who want to be on the 18?
So you should get. Hold on. Don't jump my process, Marty. I have a process. Okay. So then, Mary Ellen, you're going to be on 2019-05 and 2019-08.
Got it.
And then Tyra, you will be on 2019-15. And is there anyone... Okay, so then if we go to the middle of the road, right? People who have done a couple, that would be myself and Pastor Carol. Have you done some?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Nancy, you done any?
Nancy,
Really?
are you able to do any in this round?
I would need to be on her committee because I'm going to be out of town for a couple weeks also.
Is it possible that you will be out of town on different weeks? Could that be
I'm
a
going to
problem?
be out of town for Thanksgiving and the week following Thanksgiving.
We're on the same page.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Just a comment.
Nancy,
Just a comment.
I work 75 hours, Marty.
yes.
I would 125.
No.
You have Albertina Allen and Diana Gordon out here, and I think they might be interested in working with the committees.
Do we know if they would be someone who has done a couple, or if they have not done any yet? Do we know that?
I know Tiny is.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Tiny House should be like middle tier.
Middle. All right, wonderful. So Nancy, why don't we put you on 2019-15, and then Mrs. Lang, would you like to be on 2019-15 with them?
Whatever you want me to do.
Okay, that'll be your first one.
Okay.
Your second one is coming in a moment, I believe. I can do 2019-01. Oops. And 2019-02. If we hit a roadblock where we need me to do more, we can come back. But for now, I'm going to sign up as the middle person for those two. That leaves us needing a middle person for the two that Mary Ellen is doing. And I'm going to put Miss Albertine Allen there. And Carl, would you please tomorrow follow up with her and ask
Well,
if...
I'm going to caution this. The reason she called and said she wasn't here because she's extremely busy with that lead program.
That's right. That's right. She might not be able to rule on cases.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can move forward without her on one. And then if it comes down to it, we'll follow up with them.
If push comes to shove, I can put her down for the two new ones that's down, 17 and 18.
Well, that we're not talking about today.
Right, but she would. I'm sure she can get her for those.
Okay, let's skip middle ground and go through all new commissioners. New commissioners, could you let me know how many you are able to serve on? Anywhere from 1 to 3?
I'll do 2.
2?
I could probably do 2.
And 2 as well?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to put Mrs. Lang. We put Mrs. Lang on 2019-15. We're also going to put you on 2019-08. And then Mrs. Dempke, we will put you. Actually, Mrs. Lang, let me take that back. In an effort to make this as smooth as possible for the people involved, keeping the groups the same, Marty taking 3 will throw that off a little bit. That was not an insult. But Mrs. Lang, let's put you with Marty and I on 2019-01. So that's 01 and 15 for you then. Then let's skip back to where we have Mary Ellen on 2019-05 and 2019-08. Let's put Mrs. Dempke on both of those. and Pastor Carol. So Pastor Carol, you would be our, middle of the road.
What number?
You are not senior.
I'm used to that.
Yeah.
What number for Pastor Carol?
Pastor
05 and 08.
Yeah.
When or what?
05
05 and 08.
and 08.
Okay.
And then Mrs. Dempke as the newbie. Yes. Okay. That way for 05 and 08 we have the same group, and that should make it a little bit easier for you in the meeting process. You can meet at one time.
This would be good.
So that leaves only, and catch me if I'm wrong over there, but that leaves only needing one person for 02 and 2 people for 04. So Melody, could we put you on 2019-02 and 2019-04?
Okay.
And then, Carl, will you ask
Ms. Gore's
Albert.
available. Ms. Gore's available.
Oh, yeah, and Mrs. Gore. Okay, so, yeah, for 2019-04, we'll have Marty, Melody, and Mrs. Gore. Sorry for the lengthy process in that, but I just really wanted to make sure that we had clarity and that we were on committees with the same people if possible, because then you can meet one time and it does make it easier. And that we were spreading our experience around the table.
Good idea.
Okay.
Okay, now let's deal with 14, 17, and 18. If, all the information has not come in yet, as we're waiting on the report. But once it comes in, if we already have the people signed, they can go right to them.
I think that
Otherwise, you're
I
gonna
would
wait till
suggest that we do these ones in November and do the next one. The next one's in a new month. I want to make sure that we don't try to tackle such a backlog at one time, that we are not mindful and intentional and giving them each the time they deserve.
I would ask that the committee listen to 14 because that one has. We're waiting on something to come back on that, but as science, I'm sure Ms. Gore will be willing to go on that one as well.
Is there anybody here who is willing and able to take on another one other than what they've already signed up for?
Just call me, Just doing because I can do something after December.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah, okay,
Can't do
them.
nothing before December.
Right, those are going to be after December.
Yeah.
But if you just get people named to them whenever they come in, it's up to you guys when you actually meet and address them.
Yeah.
There's no timetables, but they should at least have the names assigned to them.
Yeah. If it's
Then you don't have to go through this process anymore.
right.
Tyra, what about you taking that number 14 then? Since
That's what I'm talking to him about. Okay. So, but yeah.
And so I'm sure I've already talked to Ms. Gore.
So tentatively, Tyra is willing, and
Yeah, longest.
potentially Mrs. Gore.
So they'll need one more for that 14. We need one more person for that.
Is there anybody who's able or willing to take on one in addition to the ones you've taken already this month? Then in order for that to be completed before the December meeting, I suggest you follow up with Albertine Allen as well and see if she would like to take one on. Otherwise, that one would have to wait until the following month. Okay.
So we got Tyra, Miss Gore, and possibly Albertine Allen.
Well, Tyra, and then possibly Mrs. Gore and Mrs. Allen. We haven't actually
Yeah,
asked
for
her.
14. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll do 17 and 18 next month. Is that what we decided?
And we're not sure where 14 will lie.
Yeah, we're just
Wonderful.
waiting on the report to come in on 14. Yeah. their response come back, it'll be, the deadline is fast approaching.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for that. Is there anything else that needs to be added?
Please, 05 and 08. Thank you, sweetheart.
So just to be clear, the next step in this process will be that the tenured committee member will reach out via email to each of the people on their committee to get everyone's availability and schedule a time for you to meet, and that the expectation would be that before you come to the meeting, you would have reviewed the case, reviewed the ordinance, reviewed the case against the ordinance, and have your notes for suggestion ready to go. Then, when you come together, then the most tenured member would email Carl and let him know this is the date and time for the meeting, so he can handle that end of things. When you come together, the most tenured member would fill out the standardized template for the formalized committee suggestion. And you might come together and find that you all have the same opinion, that it's very clear and you all have the same opinion. You might come together and find that you have a difference of opinion. And at that point, you pull out the ordinance and you go back to what are the guidelines for what is discrimination and what is not.
Majority rule, two to one. It's got to be 48 hours. You can't call Carl on Monday and say we're doing this Tuesday. It has to be 48 hours and the open law. Just a couple of days leeway to get the notice out.
Thank you.
More the better.
The one we need to have it completed.
When we'll meet.
By the time we meet at the Human Rights Commission meeting in December,
Okay.
which is a timeline that we have self-imposed.
Is this normally done in one session, one meeting, the preliminary?
Yes, you will meet one time.
One time.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is why it's important for each committee member to have spent the time on their own reviewing and forming their own opinion, so that you have 3 informed opinions coming together to check each other, and then
So we'll get information before.
I'm gonna give you these this evening.
Okay, all right, thank
Okay,
you.
and
Yeah, I
then
didn't
I'll follow up
understand.
with a.
Yeah, you guys can set the time. You don't have to do it by email. You can do it after the
Right,
meeting.
right.
Sure.
No, as soon as we're through, I'll pass these to you.
Sure.
okay. So with no additional new business. All right. Let's just settle down here.
Doing? Can you wait till the meeting
Everybody else
is
been
done?
talking?
Is there?
You guys are making this too chaotic. Y'all making me nervous. Settle down.
18 is slipping.
I feel like that's
18
actually a very organized process, if I do say so
Oh
myself.
my
Thank you.
goodness.
Yes, you're welcome.
This is on one, this one, Marty.
Here's the number.
Thank you.
Feel free to meet with your most tenured committee member after the meeting if you want to discuss what comes next. Public comment? Pastor Carol, did you say that you had something to say?
Yes, I do.
Sorry.
I was very honored by the Rotary Club to receive the Paul Harris Award for polio, that we're still fighting polio. And we've done a video which is going viral and already done. We completed it last week or the week before. And it gives, I give more or less out of my heart what I went through. And he gives the pictures of the iron lungs, the children.
It's a great example of the humanitarian work that the Rotary Club has done, and
Yes.
it's nice to, it was invaluable to have Pastor Carol be able to speak about the personal experience. The Rotary Club of Michigan City has that available on Facebook and
YouTube. Yeah.
and YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep. So thanks so much, Pastor Carol, for telling your story. I encourage everybody to visit their site and see the video.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
Nancy, you had public comment?
I wanted our Councilman Prispolinski is not here this evening, but I wanted to congratulate him on re-election as the one of the three at-large representatives.
Very good to us as our
And he's been,
liaison.
he's
You're
been
right.
great
Thank you,
to
Nancy,
us.
for saying
He
that.
comes to most of our
Oh,
meetings.
yeah, I don't think he's missed one.
And if he's not here, it's for extremely good reason, either a finance meeting or I'm sure today because of
He's tired.
election year.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's an important statement to make, that the city council liaisons, can serve as a great resource to the commissions and committees that they are a liaison for. So, we're thankful that Don has been a committed liaison for the Human Rights Commission and an advocate for the commission. And I am sure that all of the city council people in their new designations will do the same. Okay.
I had one more thing to say before we leave. Also on the, I had the question asked, when I had polio back in 1953, how come there weren't more blacks and there were more whites that had polio than there were blacks? Well, that's not necessarily true. The fact is that there was a race in politics, discrimination, and the leaders of the black medical profession at that time argued about it, that many black polio cases were being dismissed. There was one hospital, I remember back in 1953, that you would not even find a black child with polio. I lived in a black neighborhood, in the poorest neighborhood you could be in, and many of those children had died and passed away because there was hatred, discrimination, and I wanted to bring that up because right now in Africa, there's an epidemic in Africa, Nigeria. There is also in Pakistan. That's a little bit better. They're getting better on that. In Afghanistan.
Rotary Club continues to do really great work in the effort to eradicate polio, and so I would encourage anybody that is interested in continuing that fight.
But what I wanted to bring up though was the fact is that there was discrimination. They let them go.
Yeah.
They knew they were there, but then we let them go.
Yeah.
That's what the point that I'm trying to get across.
Thank you.
That's hatred.
It is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pastor Carroll. Any other public comment? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Next meeting, December 3rd. I don't think we'll have any more problems with quorum since we have a fuller board, but December 3rd, if anybody has an issue, speak up. Okay, thank you all.